My vision for this restaurant in Raising Cane's was this one location, the North Gates of LSU. College students were my peer group. You know, I knew what they wanted to eat. I knew the atmosphere they wanted to be in. I knew about what price point they'd be willing to pay and the hours of operation, you know, all that stuff. So I felt real comfortable with that. I was just out of college. I wanted to hire a bunch of college students that I wanted to hang out with, you know, and have a good time and work hard, have fun. Really, all those kind of thoughts went into this Mothership to make it a really cool place. And so I knew if we could get people here to this location where it's cool with my friendly crew, whether it's dine-in or drive-through, that they eat it, they would tell people about it, they would be back, and this place would be a success, and that's what worked out. That's what this place did for us. You know, these old booths, I love them. You know, when it originally started off, they were like an Aztec looking design on it, and that was because I bought them from a Mexican restaurant that went out of business, from a used supply shop. And you know, originally we came in, we had it in, people were like, oh wow, look, you know, but you got this like Mexican kind of theme going, you know, what were you going for? And I'm like, man, the theme was cheap. I knew then that later on I wanted to do some tiger stripe when I got reupholstered them, and we did, but I think the look's still great. I mean, these are still the original booths, which is awesome. You think about people who have been sitting in these booths for over 20 years, you know, things back since 1996. And the same with the tables, man. These tables have been here, I mean, since the beginning. Every one of these tables is the original ones I picked out. I mean, I might have got these tables for something like $30 a piece. I mean, that cheap, you know, and it all came together. Same look. You know, one of my favorite pieces that's still around is the original Thank You trash can, but I bought this thing for $50. I remember talking, they had it, you know, listed, it was, what, $100, and I negotiated the guy down to $50. And it's kept up. They've had to kind of fix a few chips and things like that, but man, I think it's classic. I mean, it's kind of weird to think about you're nostalgic and maybe a trash can will give you good feelings, but I mean, this one does it for me. When we came in and leased the place, it was the bike shop that was here last, and then when they moved next door, which made this space available for us, and the bike shop had this, you know, some of that old cheesy paneling, and they had painted it white. And so coming in when we were renovating, I had to pull those layers of that layer of paneling off, and then there was another layer of whatever kind of paneling under that, and we pulled that off, and then underneath that was striped paneling, because it was a video arcade at one point. Pulled that off, and then we see underneath there's pieces of this great old, I think it's pine, paneling. And man, I was like, oh, that is cool. And I've been told, I've never even actually really checked it, that it was an old Italian restaurant when the place was first built. And so there was enough of this, I mean, barely enough of this to where I could make this wall all the way down to the end. And what's interesting about it is like that the arcade had stripped up so much of the wood to put in all the different electrical outlets. And so if you look, I have this big, thick 12 inches as a baseboard on that, and I had to pick that. I normally wouldn't put that. I'd probably go half that, 6 inches, but I literally needed to save all these pieces. It's also why I did this big crown molding up at the top. You took the crown molding off and you took the little baseboard there, you'd have a bunch of small pieces with gaps going up and down, but look at it, we made it work. And I thought that was so cool. So we pulled all those pieces off, and then you had this stuff right here. This is, you know, this old stucco, you know, it's concrete stucco on the wall. That was there, and so I was like, oh, that's ugly, and I don't know what I'm gonna do to replace it or whatever. And once again, I got really lucky, and I saw in the end a tiny, tiny brick, I mean, a little hole where they had some brick. It was literally like right in here. I mean, just a tiny little bit, and I was like, holy cow, that's brick. So I kind of picked at it and got a hammer and pulled some out. And like, oh my gosh, there's a brick wall, man. So I thought that was awesome. And so we had a big crowbar deal that we used for, you know, whatever. And I started just ripping it out. I knew I wanted to leave some of it too, you know, because I thought that'd be a cool look. And I literally just did, and I did not stop. I mean, I literally went down, ripping out big pieces, and like a madman, I wasn't really a design. I mean, I probably should have left some stucco here, but I didn't. I'm like pulling down. Somebody probably said, hey man, leave some more of that stucco. And then I got here, so I kind of did, and got this little wonky piece right here, ripped it down the floor, up, down. I mean, this is original design. It's never changed, right? And went down here, decided to do a bigger piece. I have no idea why. And went all the way down. And then it's interesting coming down here. Now I'm working up a really good sweat. I came down and then I ripped off a big piece right here that showed, and it was just, all it was this black paint. It came down like this, and I was like, oh man, I just screwed that up. I need to stop because it's some kind of nasty painting or whatever. And I was like, shoot. I said, I'll just have to get a picture and hang over that, and then we'll leave this stucco. Maybe we'll come back and put something over that or whatever. And then like sitting there thinking about it for a while, then I couldn't stand it. I was like, oh man, I got to know what's back there. And I mean, I almost literally left it, and we would never know. So I ripped out a little bit more, and it was red. I was like, okay, let's go for it. And so I ripped here and saw what it was. I was like, holy cow, this is an old mural. And ripped down to this, and then all the way over. And it was like, it sounds kind of corny, but it was a sign to me that this is really a special place, right? And so back when this place was built, like the early 30s, Highland Road was a major transportation. It was probably one of the busiest streets in Baton Rouge, and it led from downtown through LSU through residential. And so this would have been a really big area to see, an outdoor advertising. So this was the outdoor of the building. They built this building on later to add more space. And so this is a Wolf's Bakery mural, and I love it because this was the original bread that we bought from it. It ended up getting bought out by Flowers, and in the same factory, the Wolf's Bakery factory, is where we started and did our first Cane's bread that we bought from them. So that's just really really cool, when you think about it. And so when they stuck it over the wall, they had to chip this up because paint's slick, right? And so they come through, they chipped all this one up and took all those chips out of it so that actually the stucco would stick on it. So it actually even looks cooler. So this is a nice, cool mural, 1930s. All I did was wash down the whole wall. So it's soapy water, and then I washed it with water all the way down, and then I came back with a clear coat and just put the clear coat over it. It's been just like that since back since 1996. There's no space for a self-service counter here. So what we did was we put, obviously, napkins on each table, and then we put ketchup on the table. So I think it's the only restaurant or one of the few restaurants we have in the whole system that actually you have your salt and you have your ketchup and your napkins on the table. So in the design, we realized it would be a good place to put a bar to maximize seating, and plus I like a high bar anyway. And so I went down to State Lumber and bought these 1x12s, and literally just built the cheapest bar I could. It's got some 2x4s underneath to support it. And then literally just came back and just clear coated over it. So I wanted to put my mark on it, so I put Graves here, and I drilled it in with a DeWalt drill head, and literally went in and did it. And I thought it was cool, and I actually put the date here too. So it's August 10th, 1996. Look at that. And so I had so many friends that helped me out with it, friends, family, and they come here and worked. And I didn't have any money to pay them. They just did it because they were good friends and excited about the project. And so the different people that really helped me out a lot said, hey, do you want to put your name in the bar? Which they were excited to do so. So you can look around. But this is Broyles. This is Craig's wife. And then Mike Coulard. And yeah, obviously down here, Sylvie. We couldn't fit all the booths in this line to be an accessible handicap way coming in. And so what we did was we made this booth here on the end set, and we can actually make it movable. And so the city was okay with it because we said, hey, anytime anybody comes in, we're going to move it. And it does. If someone comes in handicapped and comes down with a wheelchair, we'll come in, the managers come out, we'll move the booth for them, they come in, it's cool, move it back, and then we'll move it again. So it actually was able to give us 4 more seats, so the people will cram in here, 6 seats that we really needed for sales. I love these original art pieces we put on the wall here at Cane's, and so really the design came from like a guy right out of college, so it's kind of like, what's your college dorm room or college apartment look like? So I just want to put stuff all over the walls. I knew beyond a doubt I wanted a Velvet Elvis, and a guy that we worked with, Greg Williams, is actually our first general manager. He goes, man, I know where to get a Velvet Elvis. I'm like, you do? He said, yeah, man, I'm going to go do it. He goes, I'll get it later today during the runs. I'm like, that's funny. I haven't seen anybody paint Velvet Elvis forever. I was thinking I have to search up and down for one. Well, anyway, he came back with actually, this is an Elvis towel. I mean, literally, it's a towel that he got from, I think, a place called Spencer's in the mall. And I was like, Greg, that's an Elvis towel. It's not a Velvet Elvis. And he's like, oh, I thought that was a Velvet Elvis. Anyway, I think it's funny now when you think about it. And so we reframed the towel, and there it went. This eat sign that went here, and there's a big hole right behind the eat. And so we needed to put something there. We didn't know what to do. I was like, man, I always saw those signs in the interstate that said eat. I just think it's so random. And obviously now in most of our restaurants, we have the eat sign, which kind of carries on. This was kind of fun. This guy, Chris Duke, was one of our original crew members. Great guy. He was artistic. And so he just he just painted this one day and then went and made a copy of the deal, and I thought that was fun. I love the original pictures I had of Kane, the first. You know, he was a great dog, and it was so funny is I never thought these pictures would go up in a restaurant or anything, but I could take pictures of him doing just about anything. He would wear sunglasses, he put a hat on. He was just one of those easygoing, great dogs, and so I just wanted some pictures like that for people to get what our namesake was. I like these old fraternity shots and football shots. When you think about where LSU has come today, I mean, the first LSU football team, 1894, I mean, think about that, you know. How would these guys do against the players we have today, you know? Look at the earthquake game, famous game of Eddie Fuller caught the pass, and we actually measured on the Richter scale. I was at that game. I was in the end zone behind where he caught that ball, and literally it shook the ground. We actually registered as an earthquake, which is really cool. The first person that took the first dollar, Erin Naylor, took the pictures from construction. You know, she thought she got all the pictures together and made this design, which is really cool. You know, put it up and literally put it together and put it up. And Lily stayed there, and you know, it's just fun for people to come in and see now what this place was like before than what it is now, because Cane's has been a tradition for over 20 years now here at the North Gates of LSU. Paul Nakan was the man that I came up with the original spice mix for cane sauce and for our chicken, and so he also had a side business that was replaning old cypress and making furniture and different things like that. He knew I wanted to put some cypress up front. And he said, look, you're welcome to it. You go in yourself and plane it out. And so we did. We went in and planed out all these original pieces of cypress like this. And I wanted the restaurant to be clean and restaurant safe. And so that's why I was big on stainless steel. So that came with a stainless steel countertop. I thought we could keep it clean. Plus, I thought the silver looked cool with the cypress wood. And then what's crazy about this site is it was originally built with a skylight, right? And so you kind of go, well, what are we going to do with this skylight? And if we thought about maybe just cover it up and just make it part of the ceiling, like, no, it'd be cool to have natural light, and it's part of the character of the place. Decided to come back and do the cypress around the whole casing. And we thought the look was great, but there was just something missing. And we were like, let's do something cool there. It was either stained glass that we come back and do a design, you know, something LSU, purple gold, maybe tiger or something like that. Or B, we do the disco ball. And so we ended up deciding on the disco ball because it was one, cheaper, and two, we thought it'd be a lot more fun. And obviously that's just stay with our tradition at Cane's with the disco ball. And you know, all these things are special to me because, you know, if we never had a skylight, you never would have had a disco ball, right? That's the great things that happen, right? If you never uncovered this original Wolf's Bakery mural, we never would have had the mural at Cane's. Our logo would look different, right? And so special things to me that really make this place really special for the whole system. And so I really look forward to all people from Cane's coming to the Mothership. So we had a compromised area, but I was able to come back here and get in. Originally it was a 3-fryer bank and one larger griddle, and then our make table up here. Later on, we came back and added the 4th fryer to get speed out because we were a lot busier than we ever anticipated, which was great. And we later came back with these fryers that we have in all our restaurants, right, with the timers and everything else. The original fryers, and there were 3 of them that were here. It was a hodgepodge, man. They were just fryers that I got in Texas, you know, from used stores. But I remember, you know, one was maybe a 65-pound, one was like an 85-pound. They had different barrel drums. It was just crazy, and all 3 of them. And my goal was that they could work for at least 30 days is what I wanted, because I knew in 30 days I could show what the business would do is I could go out and get another loan, maybe get a little line of credit to go get some newer equipment. But you know, this is far from what we had before. I'd bought a flat top griddle, and we actually put it in Craig's girlfriend then, now wife's Honda Accord. We actually literally carried it around that way. And, you know, our original make table here was just literally a stainless steel table with our chicken and our batter and just ice baths, you know. And so now we have the refrigerated wells from Wasserstrom. You know, it's neat seeing it be different, but they kept the integrity of this whole place, you know. And we came back to, obviously, this was just a stainless steel table for our make table, and then we came back with the refrigerated wells, you know, our proprietary stuff made by Wasserstrom. When we came in, we jackhammered up all the floor back here. It had tons of cracks in it. The concrete was a mess, but I literally saved any parts of it that I could, the concrete that was good enough, and jackhammered around it. And so I remember the contractor, Ralph Dyer, was helping me out, was like, Todd, why are you doing that? It's only going to save like a couple $100. But I'm like, well, Ralph, I don't have that extra couple $100, so every little bit counts. And which is really fun because when we started off, I mean, I didn't do that for character. I did it to save money, right? and we painted the kitchen a gray flooring. So it was just all gray, and then, of course, that didn't work very long in a kitchen with, you know, a lot of activity on it, you know, tons of work, chicken grease, all that good stuff, and it came up, and I painted it for years, and after, you know, we had started opening other restaurants and opening up, I said, you know what, actually, let's just clear coat it, and I want people to see this. I want to see where we came from, what our roots are, and, you know, literally these little chunks of concrete are some of my favorite things about this building. So what this shows is we have a really small kitchen here, right? But we do high volumes and like really max times, like late night and game days, so we can make it work. So I think that's important to see this, that, you know, you don't have to have a huge restaurant to have great results. I love this office. I built this office with my own hands, and it worked. You know, it literally designed out with the smallest places. You got to realize this is the original corporate office as well, right? And so I lived here. I worked here all the time. And so I knew I needed basic stuff, right? So I needed a counter, and I got this. I think this was in Home Depot somewhere in a, you know, the countertop section or whatever. So I just literally got it and told them to, you know, I had to cut off a couple of inches off either side. Put that in, braced it with some 2x4s, and then like I needed shelving, you know, for me and the other managers come in. So I just, you know, got some 1x6s, but it's classic, right? So all this stuff is still functional, it still works. You think about it, even though the electronics have changed quite a bit. I mean, this stuff still is still here. I made these till safes out of plywood, right? And so you think about this. This is since 1996 that these things, I built them, and they actually are still in use and have to work. Same hinges, same everything, man. So it's just fun, man. You think about something like that would break down now. Now, it doesn't look so pretty, but this thing has a lot of history in it, right? All those early days come back to me all the time. Like, you know, I can look at counting cash, and I remember being so tired. You know, you lose count. Oh, man, I got to start over again. Counting the pennies, you know, you have all these cash stores of pennies and counting and doing it. Just all those long hours and doing it. But man, I always had a good feeling. Always when I got off shifts, I always felt great. You know, and working that much, you're just wired, you know. So you go back home after that. I always couldn't fall asleep for a couple hours, even though I was really tired, because I was just wired from that day and then feeling good about delivering that, you know, good product. Always had fun working with the crew and all those things. So it's just, it's fun to me to think about just those days and how, you know, really not much has changed till today. Our management here has kept on the same great traditions. All right, and as you head on to the back here, there's our corral, and it was actually just dirt back here is what it was originally. And Lily came in, so I mean, I had a space to put the freezer and cooler, which obviously needed, but it's not ideal in South Louisiana with our heat to put these things outside with compressors, condensers. You know, it's not great for them. So we burned through them pretty good. But these original units came. This is still our original cooler, and you can see right here where you see a little edge comes back. It's actually we're probably going to need to replace that. Too long. The freezer finally gave out completely, the walls and everything. But you can see the configuration, the space is still the same. And we built this overhang to do it, to shade it, to where it help out a little bit with the heat. We had to add later. We had to add this storage bin to help us have some more storage, obviously, because the sales just continue to grow and grow. I can't believe it. Every year we continue to do higher sales. It ties in there into our dumpster pad. I built a little. It wasn't exactly like this. We had a wall here, but I literally built in this way to be able to keep everybody safe, keep the corral locked up, and it works. It's functional. So after I locked down this lease, I knew I wanted to get an apartment in this little complex back here because I wanted to be right on site all the time during construction, and I knew I wanted to be right here for the restaurant when it was open. And I actually got real lucky because I got the apartment right here that windows looked over the Mothership. So when I originally moved in, I had a bedroom in the back, a kitchen and a dining area, and then I had my living room up here. So very shortly after that, we had a lot more office stuff to do, and we had some office crew members helping us out. And I usually kept a really late schedule because of the restaurants closing at 3:30 in the morning, and we didn't get out of there till about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And so some mornings I actually needed to sleep. And so I didn't need that crew coming here waking me up working in my kitchen. So basically what we did was convert my back bedroom into an office so I could shut that off and move my bed up here into the living room here. What was great about this location is I could look right out this window at any time and see what we had going on in the drive-through. You know, I could see if there was trash on the parking lot. I need to go down and pick it up and be there. And I could actually hear the drive-through going at night. So if I had some time and I could take off, I could make sure when I was kicking back that I could actually hear and make sure our restaurant was going well. Now that also could make you crazy at times. And so I remember waking up from sleep in this bed and making box orders at night because I was working so much. And so for me, starting off that restaurant and establishing what we were and doing that perfect box, fast, friendly, clean, and having fun, I could actually, even when I was taking off, make sure that was happening through the drive-thru. And what's great living right here next to the restaurant and Kane being with me is Kane was a fixture here in the North Gates of LSU. And luckily I had Kane out when a friend came by and told me that naming the restaurant Sockeyes after the salmon I fished for in Alaska was not a good idea. And I was a couple of weeks out from having to make signs for the restaurant. So I'm like, well, do you have, what's a good idea of a name? I can't think of anything else. And he said, well, you ought to just name after your dog, you know, Raising Cane. People call it Canes for short. And that's how we got our name. So in this dining area, it was the first place we set up our office. And so we had one desk here that I'd use or Craig would use right here in the kitchen. So it worked. A fun artifact is the old pager, or beeper as we called it. You know, when I was going to start Cane's, they didn't have cell phones, or they did. They were probably, you know, this big as a unit, and they weren't practical. We didn't have them. So if you need to get a hold of somebody and you didn't call you, and they weren't at their apartment and they're out about town, is you paged them and you put your number in it to call you back. If it was an emergency, you'd put in your number and a 911, which meant you'd pull over to the side of the road and go to a payphone, put a quarter in, and call the number. It's funny, huh? There's like payphones now anyway either, but kind of classic, man. We all had pagers, and I think that's pretty fun. Up at the top here, I put up quotes that inspired me, and it was a lot of hard work getting started. And so literally when I'm preparing for this restaurant down here, I had a lot of things that kept me going, not only through the construction phase, but even before that, when I was writing the business plan and trying to raise money for the business. One of my favorite is nothing ever happens unless someone pursues a vision fanatically. And that's what really this whole journey has been, starting back in 1994 when I wrote the business plan and raising money, to today, going after this vision fanatically, you know, and this is what we want to have locations all over the world and be known as the brand for quality chicken finger meals, great crew, and cool culture. And to do something like that and to build this great crew together is, I mean, someone's got to pursue a vision fanatically, and it's our team, and it's everybody at Cane's. And we have nice big corporate offices now, you know, restaurant support centers that we can do incredible support. Well, that started from here, in my kitchen, in this apartment where I could look over at the restaurant and make sure things are running well. If they needed anything from me, they could come any day, any time of the day, and make sure they got the help. And that's where this whole restaurant support office concept started, right here in my little dining room, in this little bitty tiny apartment. So little modest kitchen here. It worked. It was good. You know, all the essentials. Got a little community coffee made right here in Baton Rouge. Little Butterfinger, favorite candy bar. You know, typical right out of college on an extreme budget food, right? So you had your spaghetti and sauce, you know, cheap. You know, you'd have your pork and beans, tuna fish. We had obviously a huge supply of ramen noodles. I ate them so much, I got so sick of them, I really don't eat them today. People get excited to go see ramen restaurants. I'm like, I burned myself out big time. Just a little Tony Satcheries to season everything up. A little peanut butter and jelly, some bread. You know it. You know when you've been there and had a budget, and what you did as well. Lots of chips. My favorite being Cheetos and these Zapp's Cajun Crawl Taters. You've never had them. They're our Louisiana chip. We love them. Classic old deer. We'd have in my kitchen, I would have had, you know, Dixie beer, a little Natty Light, once again on the budget. If I was going to splurge, might have a little Budweiser. Favorite cereals, Cocoa Pebbles, Fruity Pebbles, still my favorite today. I love these old pictures. This is all during that time, you know, all authentic stuff. It really, really brings me back. Like the old closet, you know, something we actually imitated this off of actually something we were doing that day. This was an Alliant order that we did, and we were putting together, you know, spices, condiment, cleaner, food, paper, organizing things. So in my little closet here, I would have had nothing but the essentials, right? And so that'd be a couple Cane's polos, these classic original Cane's logo on there. We got those redone, so that's pretty much what I wore most of the time. All my Cane's t-shirts, you know, the original t-shirts. We started off with a navy, a purple, a red, like this, and then actually a white, and I soon learned that a white was not a great color working in quick service. It showed every little thing you got on your shirt, so we actually discontinued the white, and we still don't do white in our uniform shirts. My iconic black Ray-Bans that I still wear today is the only expensive. It's the only expensive item I think I had. And back here is where originally I had my bedroom and my bed set up, and we moved that to the living room. But this served as two great office space when Craig and I would actually be working together at different times and other people would come in. So I could shut this door here and shut it off, and if I was gonna get some sleep, everybody could come in the back deck and come here and start working any time of the day. They'd usually start early morning, right after, a little bit shortly after I would go to bed from closing down the late night shift. You can look, I have my original business card, Todd Graves, 3313 Highland Road. It's actually the restaurant. It's classic, the original logo. And back then, we didn't put any title on the business card, but later on it became, what's your title, Todd? Are you, chairman? Are you CEO? And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess I'm all that, chairman, CEO, and I'm also fry cook and cashier as well. So out the back door, I have this little back deck area, which worked out great because I have a couple of chairs, have some friends over. Have a barbecue pit if we're gonna have some friends over and throw some burgers on the pit and hang out. But what I like best about it is I had a clear view right back here to talk to my crew and and managers in the corral area. We didn't have this big storage area then. We added that later when our volumes got really big. But I could literally have a clear shot. So talk to them during the shift, see what's going on. So when we were building Canes 2, the Deuce, we had to add more administrative tasks and add some more crew members. So we outgrew the 2 desks in my bedroom, and luck would have it that the tenant moved out of this building in the back here, number 5, and it actually served perfect. We had a nice big room and plenty of storage to grow to our next RSO right back here in my original apartment complex. I put this little crawfish boiler back here because that's what we did a lot, depending on what was going on in Louisiana. If they're crawfishing, we would boil crawfish. If the crabs are running, we would boil crabs, or if the shrimp are running, we'd do shrimp. Real big tradition in Louisiana, but it's how we got to hang out. Nothing fancy, just back here in this parking lot of my original apartment. We had a great time. And then we had this one big room where we could do 3 full desks and get work done. We had enough storage in the back for any kind of supplies we need, and we do it. And this is, but you think about it, this is the next step in the evolution of our restaurant support offices right here. This is an original fax machine, so we would fax things back and forth, and this was actually a fax. Copy of a fax that we used to send people when they were asking, what is your menu? We're like, this is what it is, chicken finger combo, send it over. We spent so many hours working in here and growing, and so with the restaurant hours being so late with the late night business and 7-day-a-week business and constantly working. Somebody was back here constantly working in here. During the days we only had all 3 desks filled up, but you could come back here pretty much any time, and someone was working day or night, just keeping the business going and growing it. This menu board, I kind of looked at other menu boards at fast food restaurants, and I looked at them. They were all prefab, metal and plastic and that sort of thing. So I said, you know what, we can build our own. So I got these posts right down the street at State Lumber. I put a little fluorescent light on the top of it, and then put our menu board behind it. Just red. All it was a chicken finger box or a chicken finger sandwich, and a drink. That's what you got. That's all the choices you had. So we had this little strip that we could do some landscaping in, and so my mother helped me with that. My mother and I spent time cooking in the kitchen and also doing landscaping in our yard. It's something we enjoyed, and that's really where I got that knack from it. But from that, I've taken to Canes doing those nice landscaping at all our locations. And for me I want people to see when they're coming in from the street and pulling into our lot, you see that symbol of great landscaping. It means quality to me, that we're going to serve you a quality product and give you great service inside our restaurants. We had this big awkward wall on the outside of the building, and then I thought, hey, well, you know what? We can paint that Wolf's mural look, but do it like Canes' mural. And so we took all those elements and did it. And so once again, a very fortunate situation, because if we didn't have this big blank wall, we wouldn't have done the mural after Wolf's, which eventually became, our mural at every restaurant and our oval mural. So if you look at this classic little out jut deal, it kind of makes the building, some people might say a little ugly, but I think it's character. You know, we knew we had to do a drive-through, so we worked the plans to come through, but we really had to go off this building that came here and build this drive-through extension out. So where our parking lot is today used to be an old gas station, and they pulled the station up and they pulled up all these tanks. So really, it was like a mud pit most of the time. And so to come in and I have to come back and make this smooth enough to put in a parking lot, I borrowed a friend's tractor and I made him help me, a guy named David Hook. And we learned how to do it. We basically smoothed out the entire parking lot, and then the guys that came out and poured the concrete put out their different layers that went. They said we did a good job. So when you're tight on a budget, you learn to do a lot of things yourself. And so I'm not a licensed plumber, so I probably shouldn't have been doing plumbing for the restaurant, but I learned how to do it. I actually laid the original water line that comes under this parking lot, and it's still the water that feeds Canes 1 today. From early on, we had our flags. I wanted to be able to fly LSU flags, you know, for representing the school. And that's carried on with us as well to all our restaurants. So originally, the building was not purple and gold, the bottom is. I didn't want to come in and be overpowering like, hey, we're LSU. I wanted to earn that fact. So we started off with it was kind of a navy color and off-white building, and then later on we had established ourselves as a tradition. We came back and painted the purple and gold. This poor old guy right here, actually this tree is 20 years old. It has been run over. It has been planted back and forth. I can't tell you how many times. So you can see one of these pipe ballers are broke over. People come and drive through late night, they'll run over it, you know, all these things have happened. But this thing has survived. It was originally once a beautiful tree, and then somebody who messed up came back and they whacked it back to this little meatball shape. When I found out, I got so upset. But anyway, the thing has survived. It's classic. It's been here with us. It's like our organic piece of history here. So all this old sidewalk was all jacked up. You know, you couldn't barely walk on it, much less make it handicap accessible. So we came back, rented a jackhammer from AAA, and we came and learned how to jackhammer, which is actually really fun. Cleaned it up and then made it a handicap accessible ramp going up. Got these pipe ballers made from a welder I knew, as cheap as can be, went in, but look, these things have lasted all this time. We've had to repaint them quite a bit, but they worked out great. So chicken finger neon, I don't know why we thought of it, but it's kind of classic, kind of funky. You know, we needed something to light up the front, and so we said, why don't we just put chicken fingers on there? And so when I started the restaurant, people didn't really know what chicken fingers was. It wasn't a common term, so I don't know, it's just kind of always stuck. That's why we do chicken finger neons wherever we can do at any restaurant at Canes. I'm really excited and feel fortunate the fact that it's still that today. After all these years, 20 years, it's still the cool college hangout. We still got great college students working, and it's still the same vibe. The original crew that worked here were awesome. You know, they're a bunch of fun, great kids, you know, and I say kids, I was a kid too. But they're a lot of fun to work with, and they worked really hard. You know, they were part of my dream. For me, it was that great appreciation for that original crew that were working so hard, taking care of our customers, making it a fun place. I wanted us all to be able to have a good time while we're, you know, delivering that perfect chicken finger box. Things from that original culture, because of that appreciation, because I'm a fry cook cashier, has really permeated. And you think about it now, hundreds of managers doing that for their crew across the system. And really right now, kind of across the world.